Hello and welcome to another episode of Kahawa Nagowi, where you have a conversation with your pastor, but you can't have that conversation with your pastor. We've been talking about the mullahs, about money. And today I have Lucy Mwakaba on the hot seat. Actually, it's not hot seat.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to be dramatic over here. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much. My name is Lucy Mwakaba.
I was going to say, yes, go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Lucy Mwakaba. I am the founder of Lead Child. Lead Child is a training program that trains 7 to 18-year-olds in leadership, values, and financial literacy. Also a wife and a mom to 3 kids. So I'm very glad to be here.
Good.
Yeah.
I couldn't have done that even better. You have the details. So then, now that we've got that out of the way, it's interesting that I have you here because I have a theory. But what I'll come to the theory in just a bit.
Okay.
What we're trying to be able to do here at Kawanago is talk about money.
Okay.
And part of the guests that have been here prior to you, we've been talking about values of money, what we call the speed of money and stuff like that.
Okay.
How we handle our money. But the reason why I've got you here is because in my interaction with you previously, I remember I caught you after a service and I asked you the question, is my child old enough to learn about money? And the answer was
yes.
Yes. And that time my son was 6-7 years old. The question I have here is, why is it important? Let me switch this thing. It's a conversation I had with you this week. The question I told her was, if you're 32 years old and you have problems with money, that problem is actually 32 years old. Ebu, expand on that. Then I'll come to that conversation we had after church. Yes.
Okay. So when you asked me that question, I
Yes.
told you yes and no.
Yeah.
Yes, because it's not a problem that you've had for 32 years, as in like born by you, but it's something that you've observed from your parents. So you can imagine as a child, you're 2 years, you're 3 years, you're 4 years, you're looking at what your parents are doing because our children are observational. They keep on looking at our parents. They keep on looking at us. Now we are the parents. We are the parents. They keep on looking at us and seeing how our interaction with money is. So by the time someone is 32 years old, the decisions they get to make where money is concerned is not necessarily their own. It is their own plus what has been informed by their parents, what they saw their parents doing. So for example, if their parents were very frugal with money, you'll tend to see that person becomes very frugal with money as well. If their parents were those ones of, you live only once, let's do this. We have money right now, we can splurge on it and all that. You'll find that 32-year-old ends up doing the same thing. So the 32-year-old's behavior is actually heavily dependent on what they saw their parents doing.
So what you're saying is, a child is programmed on how to handle money by what he or she sees as they grow up.
Yes. And let me continue that conversation. The reason why is because money is very practical in nature. Okay? So what they've observed their parents doing tends to be part and parcel of who they are. And you might agree with that or you might refuse.
Yeah.
But if you interrogate yourself very well and be honest with yourself, you'll discover that many of the things you do are actually something that you saw your parents do and said, either said or subconsciously thought about it and said and decided that that's what you're going to do, or based on what you saw your parents doing, decided I will never do.
Oh, so it could be something your parents did, and you're saying subconsciously are doing it, or you're now aware of it and it's like, Mr. Fanyo, I'll not do this again.
Kabisa. Yes.
Okay. So when I came and asked you, can my child learn about money, which I actually would like to be able to have my 8-year-old come, you teach children about money.
Yes, I do.
You teach them about responsibility, goal setting.
Yes.
But the thing for me that caught is that you teach children about money.
Yes.
Why is it important to teach children about? We had somebody here, I think the episode before, he was saying one of the things that we don't do is teach our children about money. So, but why is it important to teach children about money?
Because, again, what I've said, money is very practical in nature.
Practical in nature.
Very practical in nature.
Unpack that.
Now, here's the thing. I can't tell. I've told you I have children. So I have a 14, 11, and I have a 4-year-old. I cannot pray, and prayer is important, but I cannot sit back and say, I hope by what they're observing, I hope by what they're seeing, they'll become better at managing time.
It will happen by osmosis.
Somehow.
Yes.
It is easier for me to teach them the practical lessons as young as they are, so that by the time they are adults, and here's the thing, it's not even by the time they're adults, even when in their, like now my 14-year-old who's already a teenager, she already has money. Is she able to be prudent with the money? Now, you've asked a question. You've asked, why is it important to teach our children about money? If I came to you, Rev Goi, and I am teaching you about money, there are some habits that you'll have to unlearn.
Me?
Yes. There are some things, yes, you. There are some things that you've
what
already...
What have you seen?
There are some things that you've already learned and you've already picked that now we might have to unlearn them before we continue.
True.
But for a child, it's easier. It's
a clean slate.
Yes, it's a clean slate. I'm starting from where they're asking me... Mommy, wait, what? And I told you this.
Yes.
My 4-year-old holding a coin and asking me, Mommy, what can 5 shillings buy? Okay. So it becomes very easy for me to start from that point on.
Your 4-year-old will come and ask you, what can a 5 shilling buy?
Yeah, what can it buy?
What is in this 4-year-old's head?
Already knows
that
money is important.
Yes.
That I cannot go to the shop.
Yes.
Without money to ask for something.
Okay.
So they might not understand the intricacy of the value of money, but already they have an idea.
So they recognize the things you see behind that glass cost something.
Exactly.
All right.
And you have to have that money to be able to buy.
So the young boy has already, there's a correlation between that. And why is that important at this age?
Again, easier to teach them when they are younger as opposed to when they are older. And then again, it's a skill. It's a habit I'm trying to form. I want them to become better managers with their money as young as they are. So that, again, when they become older, we are not having to unlearn some bad habits that they've already picked.
Yeah, why is this important to you? Why is this important to you?
Very important because I want them not to make the mistakes that I've made where money is concerned.
Mistakes
I know we'll go there.
Be doing that.
Yes. I want them not to make the mistakes. And then again, they're my children.
Yeah.
So it's very subjective in nature.
Yeah.
I want them to do better than I did. And then again, it is what God requires of us. The talents, the gifts, everything that He puts in our hands, we are supposed to be very good stewards at it. So it's not just the talents that He's given you, even the things that He puts in your hands, you are supposed to be very good stewards where that is concerned. Now, for you to become a great steward, you have to be taught. Yeah, you have to be taught.
So stewardship is not at the, it's not taught, you don't get it by osmosis.
No, you don't.
You be taught.
Yes.
So you modeled it.
Yes.
You mentioned a fear of yours of having a 40, when we were just preparing for this,
yes.
you, off camera, just say that about a fear, another fear that you had.
I don't want a 40-year-old in my house.
Ebu?
And I know life happens.
Yes.
But I want, so 2 things. I don't want a 40-year-old in my house.
Yes.
And I don't want to have the conversations where people are saying, we are waiting for the government to do something. I want my children, and I want the children who come into the space that I'm in to already start thinking, what is the problem that I'm seeing? How can I solve this problem? And then when you solve people's problem, people are willing to pay you for it.
What is that? Hey, that is when you solve people's problems, people are willing to pay you for it.
Yes.
Okay, we are coming to that one.
Okay.
but let me go back to that. Having a 40-year-old in the home, all right, in your home,
Depending on you.
Yeah. So are dependent on you. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Now, there are people who go through crisis or different things that you might need to go to. The parents could be a place for temporary reprieve and all this.
True.
But you don't want a 40-year-old to be dependent on you.
Not at all.
Have you heard of those stories?
Yes, I have.
And where do you think the problem was for that 40-year-old? Is the problem the parenting or the 40-year-old themselves?
I could say both in a sense. And again, I pray that people hear my heart. I'm not talking about everyone.
Okay.
There are people who've gone through crisis and it has forced them to go back home. But there are people who, for some reason, you just hear someone saying, I'm waiting for this thing. I'm waiting for this thing. This thing, there's always an idea in their head that they want that is never executed. So they're always at their parents' place because it's the place of solace, for some people.
It's a comfort zone.
Yes, it's a comfort zone.
Or the parents have enabled.
Exactly. And they've allowed it.
And allowed
it.
Yes.
But you want...
But they're grandchildren. So you're seeing this, there's the grandchildren and all that. So for...
If it's temporary, as in somebody is going through a hard time and it's temporary, that's fine. But if it goes on year in, year out, and the person is not, there's a problem, man. There's a problem.
So what you're saying is you want to avert these challenges for families.
Yes.
Way early. So this is, you say, what's the youngest you start teaching?
7. I start at 7 years.
So you want to avert this 33 years ahead.
Yeah, Exactly. The reason why, research has shown, and you can go online and do the research yourself, they say by the time a child is 7 years old, there are habits that are already forming. So my thinking, or the organization's thinking, is let's catch this before they form set habits, certain habits, so that we start as early as possible and start training them and telling them, you know what, business, entrepreneurship is not something out there. It's actually just looking around you and seeing what is the challenge around here and how can I solve it? How is this problem a problem and how can I solve it? So just helping them, it's spurring an entrepreneurship mentality in our children, so that you're not seeing, let me throw in another issue. You're not seeing people carrying placards and saying, I've done, BSc and I'm out here in the market I've been here for 4 years. I'm looking for a job. Please, somebody give me a job. What can the BSc person do? What skill do they have? They can tutor. You get. They don't have to be employed somewhere.
Yeah.
They can figure out, okay, where can I start? Yeah. Even as I'm waiting for this employment, can I create my employment myself? All
right. I'm seeing where you're going with this one. So what I'm hearing is here, like any digital enabled device, there's a software that you put into this device or apparatus, and then it operates. Now, that's what you're saying. This is software you're giving.
Yes.
And these are tools you're giving a child.
Yes.
So that they can be able to handle money well.
Yes.
What is it about your own childhood that is informing you starting something like this? What happened in your childhood? What was your experience with money?
Yeah, okay. So I think I have an advantage of some sort, because I was brought up by business people. So I tend to feel like many of the things that I'm thinking of, many of the things that I end up doing is because of my background. Now, my parents owned a studio. photography studio when Kodak was Kodak. Yes.
I don't know if Gen Zs who are watching this know
They
what
don't
that
know.
is.
They don't know. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry. But
I mean, when you went to a studio,
Yes.
took pictures,
Yes. And waited.
Yes. Days
Yes.
before you got to the
getting it.
pictures.
Very true.
And
Very
the
true.
pictures were physical things. Yes.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
So then when
So your dad owned
a photography studio.
Yeah.
And what he did is when we were old enough to write,
Mm-hmm.
we were employed. What we would do.
Child labor.
I know. My kids have already said that.
Yes.
They're like, no, mommy, that was child labor. I don't know. We never thought of it like that.
Okay.
As in, at that particular time, it is what we required to do.
So how old were you? Like, do you
I
think
was in primary. I was
Uh-huh.
in primary school. So maybe in class 6.
So you're talking about 10, 11 years old.
11, 12.
Okay. Yeah.
So we were employed. And the work we had to do was, now you receive the customer, you're able to write a receipt for them.
Yeah.
That was our work. So from when we were young,
Yeah.
we were brought into the work ethics.
Yeah.
And it is important because
Wow.
ideally, I know we can make money in different ways.
Yeah.
I know our children can make money in different ways. For example, they get gifts during Christmas. When they go to Shosho's place, Shosho gives them money. And
Uncle Nani comes.
Uncle Nani gives them
And
money.
says, what did you get in class?
You
I
are
got
number
this.
1.
Hey,
so you're given.
Shikahi.
But you see, there's
Yeah.
no sustainability in that.
Yeah.
You have to work in order to make money.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad taught us that, the work ethics. Did we appreciate it then? Of course not. We didn't know what was going on. I am not sure even he knew what he was doing, but that's how we were introduced into work. And
so let me interject there. So what I'm hearing is, at that age, did you know where money in the home comes from?
Yes. Yes, we did.
How?
Yes, we did. Because my dad owned a studio.
Yes.
And people would come and take photos and pay for those photos.
Yes.
So that's where the money was coming from. So we understood that. We understood money came from the work that my dad was doing.
Yes.
Did we know that it was important? Again, not really. Not really. But it's like one of those things that, it gets into your subconscious and for some reason you just know it's important to work. In fact, and this is an aside, we were so used to being woken up early. My dad had a rule. You wouldn't get to the office, if you were to call that an office.
Yes. His place of work.
His place of work.
Yes.
He would not allow the workers to get there before us. For him, it was like, now, what is that? We are the owners of this place. We are supposed to be here early. So what that meant is that we were woken up early. Very early. Did we appreciate that? Again,
no.
Of course not.
Yeah.
But that thing has become so much a part of us.
Yeah.
And some of my people,
yes.
Sleeping is just one of those things. As in, this thing that people say, sleeping in and I don't know what, and I don't know what. We don't.
So do you do this with your children? Are you
Intentional.
revenging?
Or very
Are you
intentional.
revenging your are you and your husband intentional about, teaching them about money and like the way you were exposed? You say you don't know if your father was doing it intentionally or not, but whatever he did, in hindsight, it has worked.
Yes.
But now there's an awareness that you have. Talk about that a bit.
So, yes, I will say yes. Reason being, I cannot teach the world and leave my children without the knowledge that I'm giving people. So one of the things that I've ensured happens is that they're usually part of my class. When I run classes for the lead child and I'm training on money, they are part of my class, 1. Number 2, of course, in the home front, we are teaching them the importance of working, that it is important to work. And this is through them doing chores, And initially, one of the ways that children can actually earn money is by doing chores and being paid for it. But as they've grown, yes. Yes.
And you clean your room and then you pay them.
Hold on. Hold on.
Okay. Even
Hold
have a
on.
defensive posture now.
I can see you. Hold on. So it's not every chore. As I've told you before, money is very practical. All of us would want to say, my child, I bless you, be very good in managing money. But if they've not learned, they're going to do the hit and miss.
Yeah.
But because money is practical, I want them to start learning how to handle it as young as they are. So again, talking of my 14, my 11, and my 4-year-old, as young as they are. Now, how can I do that? We live in a place where they cannot be employed. Okay? They cannot be employed.
Even legally, they can't be employed.
They cannot be employed.
Exactly.
So exactly, where are they getting the money to start learning how to handle and manage it? There's a way in which you just have to figure out how you can put money in their hands. And people have done different things. There are parents who give their children allowances. And allowance, as in, like a paycheck.
Yes.
At the end of the month, every child gets 500 shillings.
Yes. Or 200 shillings, whatever
or
it is.
200 shillings.
Yes.
And then they learn how to manage that money. That's one way. Another way is through chores. So the chores they do.
Yeah, I'm having an issue with these chores.
Hold on. The chores they do,
yes.
you pay them for it. So you can categorize the chores. You can categorize the chores to be commissionable and non-commissionable. Hey. Now, the non-commissionable chores are chores that is their responsibility. For example, what you've asked.
Yeah.
Do I pay them to make their bed?
Yes.
No, that's their responsibility.
Oh.
Do I pay them to brush their shoes? No, that's their responsibility.
Yeah.
Let's say you're in your house and you have a pet, and this pet belongs to that child.
Yeah.
That's their responsibility, to take them out for a walk, feed them and stuff like that.
Yes.
But there are things that they can do that you can actually pay. Chores or things that you'd actually pay. For example, washing the car. You would take it to a car wash. And you would pay for that, right?
Yes.
So if your child decides that's a chore they would like to take up, you can pay them something for it.
Got you. So you're not paying as an incentive. Okay, you're not paying as an incentive. All right. You're paying
because children are very smart.
Yes.
Very smart. If you decide to do that, that's a rabbit hole you're going down. Because they will say, so long as mommy has not given me money, so long as dad, I'm not doing that.
So you there are some things that they don't necessarily do. Like, we have grass there, or those people who don't live in flats, so they have a small thing. You end up
slasher and
slash.
That is something, work that you'd have gotten somebody to do it for you.
Yes.
Now you've gotten your child to do it.
Yeah.
Let's say you have children and they have siblings, younger siblings.
Yes.
If, for example, your daughter takes care of the younger sibling and maybe they help them with homework, you can give them something.
Yes.
Because remember what you're thinking. Your thinking is, I want my child to learn how to manage money. So your thinking is broader. It's not just that I want to give my child 100 shillings and for them to put it in their pocket. No. You want to go further and say, I want my child to learn how to manage that money.
Got you. So you're teaching these children and you're not giving them an incentive. That's the caveat that I hear. So there are responsibilities, and then there are other chores that they can be. So the things where you can pay for, they can go ahead and do it.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Interesting. All right. Here's a question. What was your experience with money growing up? You personally. Where were Lucy? When you were?
So, again, I've told you my parents were business people. So I don't even remember, and I was telling you this when we were having a conversation, I don't remember whether my dad paid us for the work that we are doing. But I remember during Christmas season, the work would be so much. You know where I come from.
Yeah.
And for us, photos was the
big.
EI.
Yeah, big
Christmas.
thing. Yeah.
Man, we would actually do overnight. We would work overnight.
Wow.
Yes, we would work overnight because the work was too much. Then we would get something. My dad would give us something. So that was my experience with money. I remember one of our neighbors used to have a market. They would sell in the market. I honestly can't tell you what my I don't know whether it's fixation or my interest was, but I remember telling my father that I want to go and sell tomatoes in the market next to where our neighbors were selling. Yeah. So those were the early on experiences that I had with money. And of course, being given pocket money when you're going to boarding school.
What would you do with the money?
I would buy things, but I would still have some left. But I didn't have the knowledge that I am saving this towards something. Now, my experience is very, very different in the sense that when I teach children, and even when I teach my children about putting money aside, it's not that you're just saving for saving's sake, because you'll get tired. What are you putting the money away for? I would teach saving for a reason. Why are we saving? You're saving to buy, it doesn't matter what it is, a pair of boots or whatever.
You're saying these are things you teach a child?
Yes. So, having a goal, a saving goal. You're saving towards something. That is there's more incentive in that than as opposed to just saving that I'm putting money aside. For what? You'll get tired.
Okay. So,
let me continue with that conversation a bit. So that is my early on experience with money. And then again, you were given as a reward if you did well in school. Okay. And it was for chips. I won't say that money was for anything important. Now, when I grew up and I went to college, and I remember mentioning this to you, when I went to college, my dad would send money for college and a bit of pocket money. At that particular point, all I thought was clothes. So I would buy clothes upon clothes upon clothes, as in there was nothing like saving. Now, right now, looking back, I wish I even put 100 bob away. I'll be so far off. Yeah. Now, again.
We're now talking about the mistakes. We're coming close to that, but go on.
I wish I put money aside, because even if I was putting 100 shillings and putting it, like in a money market or something like that, because of time, the benefit of time. And that's the other reason why we start as early as 7 years old. Because a 7-year-old, what they are able to do with their money vis-a-vis a 40-year-old are very different. A 40-year-old already has responsibilities that they need to take care of. A 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, 12-year, 14-year-old, they don't have any. They can actually save towards their college.
So, what is, I'm told, this, everyone has a money language or a money personality. In all this upbringing of yours, what was your money? What do you think your money personality is?
I think I'm very prudent when it comes to money.
Okay.
I tend to think towards saving and investing. As opposed to splurging.
Okay.
And saying... So
you're not a spendthrift?
No, I'm not.
I learned, because I went through, we had a coach. My wife and I went, and as we were doing this, I got to learn I am an amasser. I like to amass stuff. So that is my relationship with money.
Okay.
But there's also a generosity, a generous part of it. And as I'm growing older, I'm beginning to unpack why I became an amasser. And why the generosity thing has really peaked. What about you? If there's one word for you, what would they be?
I would say it's ideally the same.
The same?
Yes, ideally the same. Not the amassing part, but the generosity. Because of my upbringing. I saw my dad and my parents open their home and open their doors. And you would not come. I mean, I told you we worked in the studio. So when guys would come and they have issues, I never saw my dad turning them away. I never saw. my dad turning them away. Now, there's a plus side to that and there's a negative side to that, because at the end of the day, you're thinking, you don't have money to give, but you're still giving. But there's something about a generous heart that is just, I don't know, it's amazing.
Actually,
it's amazing, yeah.
Actually, what I think, we had the CEO of Centonomy earlier here, and he said, even generosity can be planned.
Yes, true. Very true. Very true.
So maybe our parents were being generous, but for us, the advantage now is the knowledge we have
Very
is
true.
we also plan
Very true.
more of a value thing.
Yeah,
What do you think?
It's very true. I agree with that.
Yes.
That you can have, as you have envelopes for different things.
Yes, you have envelope for school fees.
Yes.
Envelope for house expense.
You can have one for generosity.
Yes.
Yeah, and that is amazing, because then again,
yes.
the thing you agree. You
Yes.
agree with your spouse. For
Yes.
those who are married,
Yeah.
you agree, you say, every month we can actually give away 10,000 and it is fine.
Yes.
So that you're not feeling, it doesn't become a one-sided thing.
Yes.
Where one is generous and the other one is man is thinking,
Yes.
no.
Yeah.
So I agree with that. I really like the fact that you've said it can be planned generosity, so that you're not ending up fighting because of it. Yeah.
So I said this to a previous guest. Recently, I had a conversation with my son. It's a father-son conversation. Those ones where, he says, "Baba, is a Mercedes faster than a Toyota?" I was like, pretty much, yeah. Yeah. Do you like driving? I said, I wouldn't mind driving fast.
Yeah.
And I was like, where is this conversation going? Then he says, because I drive a Toyota. So he said, why don't you have a Mercedes? I saw that as a trick question. I said, if I say because I can't afford, maybe I am telling him this is not I don't have the money
for it.
I answered, it's not a priority now. If I had the money, I would not put that money on a Mercedes Benz. I wouldn't mind having a Mercedes Benz one day, but it is not a priority. That's what I was thinking. And so what I articulated to him was, yes, I would like to have a Mercedes Benz, but that is not what my priority is right now. Ebu, grade me on that one.
I like that you talked about priorities.
Yes.
Okay. Reason being, you see, you don't buy things because you have the money for it. Imagine if that is how we lived our lives. You wake up in the morning and you have 1,000 shillings and you're like, I think I'm going to get coffee, not because I need, but because I can afford it. You get? So prioritization is very important. I like you brought that. Now, one thing, using teachable moments for the child. So that conversation that you had with him is something that will stay with him for a very long time, because he will remember that daddy said, yes, it is a good thing, but it isn't the priority right now. And that is very, very important. Money is a tool that you use to get the things that are important. So we bring the conversation about needs versus wants.
Needs versus wants. Yes.
A Mercedes is good. But is it what you need right now? It could be something you want, you desire, but right now it is not what is priority at the moment. You imagine cruising around with a Mercedes and you have debt in their school. You've not paid school fees in full. So again, just bringing that conversation that even as we have desires, and you might not put it like that. You can put it like in his age level where you're asking him, what would you want to have? So maybe they'll say, what kind of toy would they want?
Right now, my son wants a tablet and a smartwatch. No, actually a smartphone
and a smartwatch.
Yes.
So you see, in his mind, he feels like it's a need.
He's 8 years old.
He's 8 years old.
Why does he need a smartphone and a smartwatch?
He doesn't. But for him, it's a desire, right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that desire.
Yeah.
But because of his age, it's not the right thing to have right now. Imagine giving your child a smartphone and him going with it to school. Do you think he'll come back with it? He won't. He won't. Why? Because the minute he gets to school and everyone sees, there's maybe he might lose it, just misplacing it, or someone might pick it and go home with it.
Or someone will be playing it, then it drops.
Exactly.
Yes.
Because they don't understand the value of it at that particular time. So it's not the right thing for them. It is not
At
what
that
you
time.
said. It's not priority. It's not priority. And this is whether you can afford it or you can't.
That's a little reassuring,
Yeah.
that you've told me that. But there's also a place where I'm learning, you help me if I'm wrong, to avoid saying there's no money, there's no money. Ebu explained that.
For many of us, I mean, people who grew up in the 80s and 90s, that's the conversation.
80s, 90s and early 2000s. Yes.
Those are the conversations we had with our parents. There was never money, And you'll be so surprised at how that has shaped many of, our thinking process, Ebu, where...
Unpack that kidogo.
Where you can actually afford something.
Yes.
But in your head, you're like, no, I'm not going to get this thing. Why? Because what if I get it and then tomorrow there's no more money, So a scarcity mentality. For some of us, that constant saying of no money, no money, no money, you end up having a scarcity mentality.
Yeah.
Whether you have or you don't.
So even to put off your children, they say, Daddy, you're in the supermarket and can I have this, this chocolate? And you say, no, there's no money. We only have money for this. There's no money for that. So keeping on saying there's no money, what is that doing to a child's psyche? You
are training them to think scarcity, whether that's the reality in your home or not.
Yes.
I want to use another example that maybe people will be able to relate to.
Yeah.
So you find this person who's been struggling with weight for so long.
Yes.
And then they've gotten into a program, they've gotten into a good diet, and they're looking amazing.
A good exercise regime.
Exactly.
Yes.
They're looking amazing. Maybe they've shed even 10 kgs. They're looking absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
But in their eyes, they are not. They look in the mirror and all they can see is the previous issues that they had.
Yeah.
Same thing. You have had that so much, it becomes part of you. You're even scared of spending money. And what you're not realizing, if you're a parent, you're actually passing that on to the child.
Yeah.
So you're bringing up children who will become very stingy and miserly and all that.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter what is going on, they're not going to give their dime because they're thinking, what if I? And then now I don't have. What if I? And then I don't have.
So
now, allow me to say, now that does not mean that every time you go to the supermarket with your children and they ask for something, you buy for them so that now they have the mentality that you can afford everything. No, not at all. Not at all. Because then again, if you keep on saying yes, you'll raise entitled children. Okay? And you do not want to do that. So there's a balance there where you can actually, when you're going to the supermarket, you can say, come, let's look in the house. If they're old enough, 11-year-old, 10, let's look in the house. What do we need? Can we write the list? So that you're doing the list with them. You see, when you're doing that, they become part and parcel of whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
When you get to the supermarket, you'll find that more often than not, they will not request for things that are not in the list.
Interesting. A friend of mine, she told me when she goes shopping, she goes with her children. I can tell you, my wife doesn't like going with her kids for shopping. Neither do I. But she goes with her kids to shopping. And she says, I have this amount of money. And this is the list. So she has a calculator, all right, on her phone. So the kids, let's go get soap. They go get soap. And
they put it,
And then it's like, if we get soap, I know soap, there's different. And then we need to buy toilet paper for the house. There's 1 ply, there's 2 ply,
3,
there's 3 ply.
Yes.
I'm like, how much toilet paper do you need?
Yeah.
but they're like, which one do you be able to have? And the kids make the decision on what, and they're,
They're calculating.
And usually it's like, say you're going to spend 7,000 for the shopping, so you put 7,000 on the calculator on the phone, and then
so they keep on reducing.
They keep on reducing.
That is interesting.
And by the time they go on, so in the head for the kids, they know this is how much you go on. So if there's some that is remaining, they're like, okay, now if there's some that is remaining, now we can do what we call impulsive buying. So we budgeted 7K. We can be able to do this. We've spent 6,400.
Yeah.
So we have
600.
We have 600 remaining. Can I buy this? Lollipops. So it's like, yeah, you can buy one and all that. And we spend another 100 shillings.
Yeah.
And then it is 6,500 that now you have. So we go home with 500. So that 500 is not just at it to waste in itself. So that's how she was doing it. And so this is something that you'd advocate.
Yeah.
So what was the alternative of saying there's no money? What would be the alternative? So a child asks you for this and that, and you say there's no money. Or they're saying, Mom, I want to go for this camp, this camp or this kids thing and all this, but you say there's no money. So what would be the alternative of saying there's no money?
I like your friend who's involving the children in doing the calculation, because then the children realize that money is not infinite. Money is finite. If I give you 200 shillings as my child, and I tell you, this is the money I'm giving you, and you say you want to buy chips, and chips is 150. How much are you remaining with? 50 bob. So you can't say, now I want to buy ice cream that is 150 shillings. You don't have 150 shillings. So one way of doing that, avoiding all the time saying I don't have money, is involving them in doing your budget for the house.
So you involve your children in the budget for the house.
Involve them. It's not an out there idea. Just sit down and see. In fact, they'll be in shock. Let me give you a story. There was a time we were doing a physical training of the lead child, and
lead child, the organization,
yes,
the training you have. Yes.
And so we were teaching on money, and we were teaching the kids on budgeting. And we decided practicality wins all the time. So we gave each child 100 shillings. We were teaching them about budgeting. So needs versus wants. We told them, please come up with a list of the needs you have. Always start with the needs. See, what I am training them in is when you become an adult, you start with the expenses that are important. You cannot go for a trip and you've not paid your rent. Okay. So start with the needs.
Paid your taxes.
Exactly. So start with the needs first.
Yes.
And then you'll come to the wants. So the children, every child had their own list. You have your 100 shillings. We went to, then Nakumat was there. We went to Nakumat. The children were in shock. Please do not keep your children from going to the supermarket. There are so many lessons in there. Do not. We went with them, and there were a bunch of kids. We went with them. Everyone had their list. Everyone had their money. And they were going to pay for themselves.
Yes.
No one was going to take that responsibility.
Yeah.
So they were in shock. They're looking at the cereals that they eat. They're like, wait, it's 500 and something. What? A spoon is 200. As in, for them, what is this? This is so expensive. Why are these things expensive? So again, involve your children in budgeting. It brings a light bulb moment where they look and say, what? In this house, you have a household. I have a household of 5 people.
Yes.
Our shopping is
X
out
amount,
there.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. So when you involve them and you're sitting down and they look at the receipt, and my kids go through the receipt, sometimes they go through the receipt to see if there's a chocolate inside there so that they can ask, where is the chocolate? We don't see chocolate here. Yeah. So when they go through the receipt,
yeah,
they're in shock. They're like, oh my goodness, we need all this.
Yes.
And yes, you do need. So do not keep them away.
So teach your kids to differentiate between need and want.
Yes.
So that even when you say we instead of saying we don't have money.
No.
There is no money.
You can see yourself.
Yes.
We had allocated this amount for going to shop,
Yes.
and it is over.
Yes.
And it is over. So someone will not bug you.
Yes.
That is one way of doing it.
Yeah.
Budgeting with them.
Yes.
I advocate for even better ways.
Yes.
Beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Sit down with the children.
Yeah.
And agree on what your goals are for the year. Agree on what your goals are. So, for example, if you decide that this year in November we would like to go to Mombasa,
yes,
where would we like to go?
Yes.
We would like to go to Voyager.
Yes.
Or Baobab or whatever.
Yes.
How much is it going to cost us?
X amount of money.
X amount of money.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Yes.
Every month.
Yes.
How much are we supposed to put away
aside.
every month?
Yes.
Aside to be able to realize that goal in November.
Yes.
So maybe 10,000 every month.
Yes.
So when your child comes and says, can we go for chips today?
Yeah.
You remind them of the goal. You see, I've not told them there's no money.
Yes.
I've told them there is money,
yes,
but the money is for that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I've just been given parenting tools right here.
Yeah.
Interesting. I like that. I like that. Moving away from saying there's no, so don't build a scarcity mentality of a child at that thing. It's not a healthy thing to do for a child to have scarcity mentality.
Even for you. Even for you. Yeah. Even
okay.
For you. Yeah. Even for you. Try. Yeah. It's something that I think we learned that we need to unlearn.
So, Ramit Sethi is one of these main guys, specifically in the West. But he wrote a book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And he says, in one of the podcasts that he had earlier, he says the 10 ways to become rich. One of them, I think it was his first one, is marry the right partner. So what has that got to do with becoming or acquiring wealth? And how can we teach our children about that? Values. It boils down to values. What value do I hold dear to me? Where money is concerned, what values does she or he hold on dear to? Where money is concerned. Yes. And I think that's why in premarital courses, one of the things they discuss very heavily is finances. Yes. Because then you get to realize what does your soon-to-be husband or wife think where money is concerned. Yes. Imagine it can't be one of those things that you say, tutajulia mbele. Yeah. You can't say that. Yeah. You have to discuss and see what. And you see, again, what I have said before, it is heavily influenced by how you've been brought up. Yeah. So even sitting down with your then-to-be spouse and discussing what used to happen. I know of people who, when they were growing up, I mean, their home was never their home. They were always hosting people. You get all their cousins, all the whoever. All these relatives. Yes. So they never had space of their own. Yeah. And in as much as it was a nice thing, what the parents were doing, they resented that thing. And they promised they will never, have any relative in their home. Yeah. So the same. How were your parents dealing with money and how has that influenced you? It is important for you to have that conversation, a candid conversation, so that this person, by the way, akishika hivi, Yes. Once you hold on to money like this, you're not letting go. So you told me that your husband pointed out something to you when you were your early days of on marriage. What did he see about your money language and your response to money? So he said, every time he brought up the issue of money, I closed up. You froze? I closed up completely. And were you aware of that at that time? No, I wasn't. Okay. I wasn't. It's one of those things, blindside, when I thought about it, what is causing me to do this? I had never, I would never openly
see myself as someone like that, that closes up when conversation about money is brought up.
Yeah.
But when I thought about it, it's because, number one, my dad was the breadwinner, you know? So he took care of everything. And he took care of everything. In fact, there was a time we were having a conversation with siblings and discovered that there was a season, there was famine. In the 80s, there was famine. You remember when there was that yellow maize?
Yes, I remember that.
Let me tell you, during that season in my home, we ate chapatis all through. Now, let me ask you, if you're a child and you're eating chapatis, does that sound like famine to you?
No.
Not at all.
No.
But imagine, my dad shielded us from that, you know, from that completely. By ensuring we had a convenience store at that particular time. So supply of unga ya chapati was not an issue. So we ate chapati all through. So there was never a conversation that there's no money in this house necessarily. Or rather, an open conversation about money to the point where you understand that it's okay to have a conversation about money. So of course, when I got married, it was not something that I expected to have. You sort things out, me, I'm good, you know. Bring up the issue of money, I'm like, eesh, why? What am I supposed to do? But God is amazing and he works in amazing ways. Because now, through the lead child, you know, training the kids, I started discovering, you know what? It's okay to have this conversation. It's okay to have this conversation and to open myself up. And the thing is, even encouraging parents to have conversation about money is not from the basis that you are awesome with it. No, whichever place you are at, just start that conversation.
So it's important you teach your kids about money because, and the word here you use was values. So that's what you're teaching kids, the principles behind the use of money. So that when they have homes for themselves or choose to be able to have a partner and their decisions are around values as opposed to
whatever
functional.
else. Whatever else. Look around us and you can already tell that we have a very skewed mind when it comes to money. And that's why you'll see people who sometimes, some of them who get into power, the thinking is that let me amass as much as I can during my tenure so that if, let's say, I don't get a second...
These are politicians. That's what it is, yes.
If I don't get a second chance...
Yes, I don't get a second term.
A second term,
yes.
I've sorted myself.
Yes, if I don't get re-elected. Yes. And we're using the politicians because that's a common thing about us. But for more, you're saying a general principle is people take as much as you can.
As you can, when you can.
When you can.
At the position that you're in, just in case that position ends, you'll have amassed as much as possible. Now, I want to transform that narrative and start teaching our children that money is a tool. It's a means to an end. It's not an end on its own. It's not an end on its own. It's just a tool. I use it to get some of the things that I want, and that's it. So you're changing even the value that people hold or people place, or the worth that people place where money is concerned, so that imagine you're okay. It's not that thing that people say, when you have money, even the way you walk changes. As in, people will know that you have money because of how you're walking. There's a confidence that money gives you. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be.
So we're coming to the end of our conversation here, and I'm maybe just to wrap this thing up, and I'm asking, what do children need to learn about money?
A lot.
Okay.
Number one, just have the conversation in your home.
Okay.
Whether you're a guru or you're not, where money is concerned.
So you don't need to be an expert.
No, you don't.
All right.
You don't. Why? Are you an expert in some of the skills that you're teaching your child?
No.
Not at all.
No.
I mean, your journey, your walk with God, you're doing it together with your children.
Yes.
And you're not there yet.
Yes.
Same thing. Even for money. Don't wait until you're an expert to start having this conversation. Have the conversation wherever, whichever place you're at.
Yes.
Number one, let it be And you see, some of the people, some of us, it was a no-go zone, it was a taboo topic.
Yeah.
Let it not be that. Just
Yeah.
have a conversation,
Yeah.
sit with your children and tell them, now we are planning to do this. Just have a conversation with your children, number one. Number two, teach them that money is a tool. It's a tool. I want our kids to grow up without greed where money is concerned. Teach them that it is a tool.
Mm-hmm.
Number three, teach them the value of money, as in the work ethics, that it's important for them to work in order to make money. And the reason why I'm saying this is very important is because we are living in a very different time and season where there are so many ways in which people can make money. Okay. We have technology, we have the creative, they can make money in very, very different ways. And so our children are actually lured into that I don't have to do any work, but I can make money.
So what is a value, the dignity of work?
Yes.
And those things.
Yes.
So that.
Yes. So that our children don't grow up with that mentality that I don't have to do anything, but I can still make money.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you.
The other thing they need to learn is the rules of handling money. Money, you work to earn money. It's important to give. We talked about generosity. It's important to give, and you can help them where this is concerned. You can choose a cause to support, okay? You can teach them how to give out of the money that they've made in church. So offering in the morning, they're not asking you for money. They have money in their pockets. They give from that. You're teaching them to be generous.
Okay.
You teach them how to save. It's important to save, okay? Save towards something.
Yes.
Save and invest.
Yes.
And then finally, teach them to spend. I told you I have people in my house. Now one of them is for chop my money.
Chop the money. Anytime money comes, you spend. Yes.
And there's one who does not want to spend.
Like a miser. She holds everything back.
So you see, for both, there are lessons that they need to learn. That it's important to balance. You can't spend everything you have. And for the other one, it's important you cannot hold on to everything
Use
that you
the money.
have.
Yes, spend the money.
Exactly.
That's why you earned it.
Yeah.
So what I'm learning, actually take away is it's never too late or never too early to teach your child. If you haven't even been to teach your child about
Very
money.
True.
So if people want to know about the lead child, how do they, and what you do, how do they get you?
So we are on Instagram.
The lead child.
Yes, the lead child on Instagram. We are on Facebook as well.
Yes.
We are on LinkedIn as well. So all that information is there. And of course, we will share, even as you post this podcast, we'll also share our social media handles for them to be able to understand where they can get us and the trainings that we run. Yeah.
Lucy, thank you very much. This conversation isn't over. You've been listening to Kahawa na Gowi, conversations you have with your pastor that you can't have with your pastor. We've been speaking to Lucy Mwakaba, and she has a program called The Lead Child, where we teach children about money. And this is as young as 6 years old. Thank you very much for being here.
You're most welcome. And thank you for having me.
Yes, tell a friend about this podcast. I will. Let them know, hey, Niko podcast, you have to subscribe. Yes, subscribe to this. And we'll be continuing talking about money. And tell a friend to tell a friend about Kahawa na Gowi. Peace. We're out.
Thank you.